Imagine being the best high school basketball player in the state while in the 7th grade. Now imagine being invited to Micheal Jordan's camp and telling him, "You can't guard me," to his face while only 17. After reading about everything this guy went through, it prompted me to ask one question. How did you go from being the next LeBron to banned from the league a few years later? Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy G, and today I'm gonna tell you the story of O.J Mayo. I'm gonna tell you exactly who he was, why sports broadcasters said he was a smaller LeBron with a jump shot, and how it all fell apart. O.J.'s story would begin in Ashland, Kentucky in 2001, where he'd averaged 23 points per game as a 7th grader playing varsity. The next season, he'd bring his average up to 28 points a game. Now 2003, and LeBron is selected with the first pick of the NBA draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers, leaving all of Ohio searching for the next high school phenom. And from his first day on campus, he was that guy. He'd even have a TV crew follow him around his entire first day of school. Now, most guys would crack under this type of pressure, but O.J. wasn't most guys. He'd go on to win 3 state championships and be named Mr. Basketball for the state of Ohio twice, in 2005 and 2006. Over those years, he'd averaged 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. Sports Illustrated would even do a 2-page article on him. It's around this time he would make the mistake of his life.
You know, I'm playing in my camp against O.J Mayo. He was a top high school kid coming out, and I never met him first time. In front of my camp, he starts this thing about, you can't guard me, you can't do this. You know, I got my campus here, so obviously I can't really go where I want to go because of my camp. So I stopped the camp. Send the kids to bed. We go back to playing. And he starts his whole thing, you know, that you can't guard me, you can't do this. So from this point on, it's a lesson. And from that point on, it was a lesson. He never won a game. I posted him up, I did everything. If I can ever show you that film, if you can ever ask him that, ask him about the thing that happened at my camp.
I got a few buckets, and I think the campers knew I was the only high school kid, and so they got rowdy a little bit, and we got a little bit of John. And so, you know, we played 2 games. I think we split 1-1. It was a team game. And then he said, "Okay, now let me handle my business." He was jawing a little bit and really getting into me defensively. And, you know, he's backing me down, you know, said, "Better scream for mama." You know, his mama, mama, you know, hit the famous fadeaway on me. And, you know, Mike was Mike.
Finally, I said, "Look, dude, you may be the best high school player.
You know, but I'm the greatest ever. And don't you ever disrespect, you know, the great like that."
The next year, now 2006, Mayo would attract the largest crowd to ever watch a high school basketball game in Cincinnati, Ohio, with just over 16,000 fans in attendance. Some of the best NBA players would even come watch him play in high school. After dominating high school basketball and becoming an All-American, he seemed like a lock for the NBA draft. But due to an agreement between the commission and the NBA players, prospects will have to be at least 1 year removed from high school before they can enter the draft. So after narrowing his college choices down to 3, he would go on to attend the University of Southern California, better known as USC, which caught a lot of people off guard because at that time, they weren't turning out NBA players every other year. It would later come out that he took improper benefits and was at the center of an NCAA investigation. Now a freshman in college, he led his team in scoring with 20 a game and took his team to the NCAA tournament. He wouldn't return for his sophomore season, instead entering the 2008 NBA draft. On June 26, 2008, he'd hear his name with the 3rd pick in the 1st round by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Later that night, he'd be traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. In his first season playing for the Grindhouse Grizzlies, he'd average 18.5 points and finish runner-up for Rookie of the Year, losing a close race to the Chicago Bulls point guard, Derrick Rose. The next year, his sophomore year in the NBA, he scored a career-high 40 points. The next season, he'd be taken out of the starting lineup after being late to a pregame shoot-around. Then, he'd get into an in-flight fight with teammate Tony Allen. And just 2 months later, he'd earn his first suspension of 10 games after testing positive for steroids. He went on to blame his positive test on an energy drink he bought at a gas station. By the end of the shortened 2011-2012 season, and still not starting, he decided to change his scenery. He signed with the Dallas Mavericks on July 19, 2012. At the time, this seemed to be a great choice because he'd tie his season high against the Houston Rockets with 40 points. He'd go on to finish that season with averages of 15, 4, and 3. This was around the time he'd become a free agent again, and wanting to test the markets, he declined his player option. Later that summer, he signed a $24 million, 3-year deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. He'd make his team debut alongside a young Greek freak and record 13 points and 5 rebounds. He'd go on to miss most of that year with conditioning issues. That very next season, he'd bounce back and record 7 20-point games. In the playoffs that year, he hit a three-pointer with 1 minute and 42 seconds left to put his team up by 6. Nevertheless, the Bulls would end up winning that series. Now in his 4th season with the Bucks, he played well but missed a handful of games due to injury. And after another failed drug test, it would all come crashing down.
This is the first time in 10 years the NBA has banned a player like this for drug abuse. Last player to have it happen was Chris Anderson back in 2006.
During his NBA league ban, he'd go on a hiatus, appearing in a Puerto Rican league in 2018. But due to Hurricane Maria, his time would be cut short. Next, he signed with the Duncan Tigers and averaged 22, 7, and 4 while shooting 47%. In 2020, he signed with the Flying Leopards of the CBA. It's here he would win Player of the Month for the month of July. And on November 13, 2020, he dropped 48 points in a win. Now, we all know this isn't against NBA competition, but 48 points is still 48 points. I don't care how you slice and dice it. If you can go out and hang up 48 points against decent opponents, I think you still have a really good shot of playing high-level minutes in the NBA.
You mentioned Chris Anderson, the last time we've seen something like this before. It says here that Mayo can apply for reinstatement in 2 years. What is the likelihood of that actually happening?
But let me know what you think. Do you think he deserves a second chance? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed what you just watched, smash that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe.